The schedule is here. The schedule is here. Oh, my God. It's a really tough start to the schedule, guys.
It is a tough start, but at the end of the day, we knew it was going to be a tough road, Anthony. I don't really know how much easier it could have gotten.
Well, what you do is you put the scrub daddy on this schedule and you set the standard of how high you want to take this team this season. That's what this schedule is doing. Hit that intro. I almost hit the replay. Go.
Hail to the Commanders. It's the Commanders Squad. Everything Washington Commanders every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of the nation's capital. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Rally the burgundy and gold. The Commanders Squad Show starts now.
And we got Anthony Armstrong, David Harrison, and Nick Ashew here, and there's no more speculation. There's no more leaks. There's no more guessing. There's not even any more mock schedule. I mean, well, the mock schedules exist, but they're just not really actually going to be something that matters. Now, the official schedule is out. We know every single game, every single primetime game, when the division matchups are going to be. Key matchups during the season, and maybe some ones where we go fingers crossed everybody's healthy because it's going to be really fun to watch on Monday night. I certainly got one that's going to be the case. That we're brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. So we've got the schedule out, and we could go through the whole thing, but let's be honest with ourselves. Everybody's seen it at this point now. I'm not going to go and run down every single game necessarily, but here's what I will say right off the bat. 2 road games against division rivals with the Eagles and Cowboys weeks 1 and 2. And then week 3, you've got the defending Super Bowl champs and the Seahawks before you go to London week 4 against the Colts with the Giants and then the 49ers, all before the bye with the Eagles and Rams after the bye. That's a big schedule to start. That's a tough schedule. That's a lot of teams, even if you don't have as much confidence in, let's say, the Giants. We know how these division games get. We know what that can at least look like and how it's like teams play up and play down to each other. I look at the beginning of this schedule and just go, whoo, man, that's a hell of a gauntlet, David.
No, it is. I mean, I think when you look at this schedule, I want to confirm here because I want to make sure I'm not lying. So the Indianapolis Colts are projected on FanDuel at 7.5 wins over under. So that's a 7.5 win total projection for the Indianapolis Colts. The New York Giants are also projected at 7.5 wins. Oh, by the way, the Washington Commanders are projected at 7.5 wins. So you literally, in the first 6 weeks of your schedule, don't face a single team that has a lower win projection than the Washington Commanders. In fact, I think you have to get all the way to, what is it, week 12? I think maybe Arizona. Like, what is the I'm looking this up in real time here. What is the Cincinnati Bengals?
They're probably around 7.5.
Probably around 7.5, right? So they're at 9.5, actually. So the Bengals are at 9.5. The Arizona Cardinals, 4.5. So the first time the Washington Commanders are going to face a team that have a lower win total projection than they do at 7.5 games is week 12, November 29th. And it's on the road. So, I mean, you have a little bit of an advantage given to the Arizona Cardinals because of the road schedule. And, of course, by the time November 29th comes, we're going to know a lot about all these teams and who they are, where they are, the status of their health, and all that kind of stuff. So that really only matters in the conversation right now. But I had this talk on Locked On Commanders, Anthony, like, when people talk about, and not everybody, but there are some people who kind of like, this is why, like, the NFL hates the burgundy and gold. They hate the Washington Commanders. They always set them up for failure. Like, where do you replace, if you look at this, especially the first 4 weeks, you look at these first 4 weeks at Philly, at Dallas, at home against Seattle, at home against Indianapolis, in London, so really not at home. But, like, who do you take off the schedule? Like, if you move Arizona up to Dallas, per se, right? So you start off in Philly, you're going all the way to the West Coast for Arizona, then you come home for Seattle, then you got Indy. That makes that first 4-game stretch look a little bit easier. But then you end up with Cincy, then you got Dallas, then you're in Tennessee, then you're in Houston. Like, it just makes that quote unquote easier stretch that much harder. So, I mean, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of situation. But honestly, Anthony, I want to get your opinion, because from the heart of a competitor, I'm kind of looking at this. If I'm a Washington Commander, one, you can't do nothing about it anyway. But two, I'm kind of looking into the meeting room. I'm like, bring it on. Like, let's do this thing.
100%, man. That's what this schedule tells you. I know last week I said, hey, maybe it's nice to try to start out with Arizona or Tennessee so you can kind of limp into the season. But see, that sets you up for failure, because if you barely beat them, now you got to start asking all these questions. This schedule right here, it requires you to make the most out of every single moment you have on the field in OTAs, mini camp, training camp. you got to hit on your guys. And you got to make sure that they're ready to play ball because Philly is not going to take anything easy on you. Dallas is the same. And then Seattle, they definitely want to continue what happened last year. So you have to show up with the utmost focus and be at your best to start at week 1. And we want this team to be at the top of this division. Hey, you got to beat the best to be the best. Why not start the season out that way? Hell, we don't have no injury issues to worry about at this moment. So everybody's healthy. Go ahead and let's take a full swing at it. I do like the fact that, hey, you don't have that off week. And historically, the team has they'll play down to their opponents. There's no playing down to your opponent here. If you play down to your opponent, you're going to get beat. All right, you're going to get beat. And it's going to be a tough first 6 weeks. And frankly, are they going to be undefeated? That sure would be tough to do. But I would love to see them, be ahead in the division at least, Nick, right? Can you get 2 out of those 3 wins over your division opponents? That sets you up for a really good place. And frankly, week 7 on this bye week, it's better than what it's been on previous years. The first time it was like week 14 in 2024 and similar in 2025. But when you had all the injuries, that late bye week, that sucked. That was horrible to have to wait for. Week 7 is, hey, this first 6 week is going to be high level. You got to play your best football. Week 7, we can really evaluate and look and see how we're doing and what we're working on, and then come back for that second part of the season. Because one thing to consider, I know I said this earlier. Well, I should have said it. New offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. What does that mean? Nobody got tape on you. Nobody has tape. The Philly's going to have two, three games from the preseason. Dallas is going to have that 1 week ahead of them. So you have that opportunity to take advantage of the unknown factor before your bye week, and then everybody gets to watch what you've done. So the second half of the season, Nick, they got to be able to adjust.
It's weird because in the past we've usually had the division games back-ended, right? Like you have them at the end of the season, and now we've completely switched it around, so it's the front instead. David, did you send me? I don't care. I'm just going to put this out in the open. Did you send me this because you wanted this on the screen instead? Do you think this is better, or is that what's going on? I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll just be open and talk about it. Okay.
Yeah. Let's do that.
All right, we will switch that up here because I think it's we'll make things a little bit prettier. Look, man, I got a million things going on at once here. We got this. All right, so here's the thing. When you look at the Commanders' schedule, it's weird because in the past we have had the division games usually on the back end, and I kind of thought that was going to be the NFL's just plan going the rest of the way. I don't know. David, do you know if there's a reason why they changed this up at all? Because it kind of feels like this was a little bit of a surprise in the sense that in the past, you've got so many of the division games, it makes for those late seasons that much more, interesting to watch.
Yeah, that was something interesting. I mean, you have that last week of the season. That's kind of always the divisional rivalry game week, and that's how the NFL wants to do it. But a lot of it has been the last 2 weeks, and that was a little bit interesting to me. I think it could be a little bit of, I don't want to get too deep down like the rabbit hole here, but I did have one Commanders fan who was like that late season stretch, Titans, Texans, not even just the last 2 weeks, but like Titans, Texans, Falcons, Vikings, Jags. Like, it's not the sexiest schedule in the world, right? And someone's like, it looks like the NFL doesn't really expect the Commanders to be relevant down that final stretch. And so there's kind of a lot of opponents here where the game's like kind of like, if they're relevant, it'll make the game sexier. But if neither team is relevant, then we can kind of bury it and have some sexier matchups. And I don't know what the rest of the NFL schedule is during those weeks, of course. But I kind of see where a fan might go with that. But I also look at it this way. You look at the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are in the NFC South. The NFC South is known as, the weakest division in the NFL right now, except for maybe the AFC South. And you just so happen to have the Jacksonville Jaguars there on January 2nd, which is the defending champions of the AFC South. So you do have some potential playoff implications here, even if it is, is the NFC South champion going to get crowned this week, even if it's not a great division, things like that. But you also have the possibility here, if you look at kind of like storylines. I saw another Commanders media member kind of put a tweet out there. It was like, man, if they can head into like this stretch at 9-5 or whatever it is, they have an opportunity to really make a lot of noise. And of course, getting to 9-5 is the first kind of step to that whole thing, right? But you look at this, it's really more of an opportunity to me with the Titans, the Texans, the Falcons, the Vikings, the Jags. If you're truly going to be a playoff contender, Anthony, that is the stretch where you can either make up some room if some of these other opponents like the Eagles, the Cowboys, or any of these other wild card teams, if that's what you're looking at, face, maybe harder runs, or you can widen that gap if you're already ahead of them.
Man, you're hitting it on the head because, like I said, you can't just try to warm up into this season. We tried to do that before. Last year, I pulled up the 2025 schedule. It ended with from December. December was this: at Vikings, at New York, Eagles, Dallas on Christmas, and then Eagles again. The team was decimated. The NFL is saying we are not going to risk having superstars be injured and wait for these games to be at the end of the year. I'm not tripping on people trying to say the NFL doesn't respect the Commanders. That's old talk. That is not this organization. That's what it used to be. You used to have that thought where people would try to do the team bad. No, I think the NFL wants the Commanders to have success. They need Jaden Daniels to be out there playing good football. And frankly, the NFL is in a much better position when the Washington franchise is doing good things. So, no, I don't think anybody's hating on you thinking that you're going to be irrelevant because you have those teams right there. No, I mean, frankly, look at it like this. Just like David said, it's a perfect opportunity for you to have quote unquote lesser opponents later on in the year. I bet if we go and look at the other schedules of your division foes, you might see Dallas have against San Francisco that late in the year. Would you rather have that? Would you be rather having to deal with San Francisco in December, or would you rather have to go against Tua or Michael Penix at quarterback for the Falcons? Give me the latter. All right, give me the latter because it's going to maybe give you a chance to come back, finish up strong against some teams, and then go into Week 18 against Dallas.
There's certainly a lot of questions about even the teams that you're going to see at the beginning of the season too. I don't know what Jalen Hurts and that offense is going to look like, right? I think we all can sit there and say that's been a question heading into this. Saquon Barkley and, whether he's back to old Saquon Barkley or he's starting to regress depending on what the play calling looks like in this new scheme. Dallas week 2, their defense in theory is better, but is it actually better? I think is still the next question. And Seattle lost a lot on their defense. The Colts, Daniel Jones back from an Achilles. And, it's like there's still going to be plenty of questions all the way up and down this too, where, it looks like a gauntlet at the beginning. You're going to get the test. You're going to get an idea very early. But even as you get later in the season, this is why I don't like playing the game of like win-loss. And, when this came out yesterday, I'm sitting there on radio, like, I'm not going to do it. And then of course I'm sitting there playing the game at the same time, which makes me a total hypocrite. And I understand that, but like, it's hard to do that. But we don't know, like Anthony, you just mentioned like Atlanta. Is it Tua? Is it Michael Penix? At week 15, we don't know what that offense is going to look like. We don't know what that quarterback situation is going to be in Minnesota and Kyler Murray or JJ McCarthy. Like, there's a lot of questions with teams all the way up and down the board. It's why, like, the big thing to me is I do look at quarterback matchups and I do look at the schedule and see who you're going to play from a quarterback perspective, because at least that gives you some semblance of an idea. And we know how much the quarterback actually pays attention. Quarterback dictates a lot of what's going on. But even Sam Darnold, what's Sam Darnold look like in that Seattle offense without Clint Kubiak there anymore? So I think there's definitely a lot to look at. But I think there's the right amount of nationally televised games for the Commanders. Like, it's not as much, or let's just even call it standalone, because you got the London game too with the Colts. You look at where they are in the matchups that they have and go, okay, it's clear that the NFL views them as a team that's still really marketable. And let's be honest with ourselves, right? It's Jaden Daniels. He's doing the flag football. He's in, quarterback for Netflix. He is a very marketable guy. He's smart. He's charismatic, great smile, leader, like good head on his shoulders, like all of the things you'd want to do to not just as a team market him, but as a league in the NFL. And, as this team moves forward, it's a new era. It's a new, ownership group and everything. So it kind of feels like the NFL is really trying to give the Commanders enough of an opportunity to like show everybody, David, that it's not the same organization than it was before, still getting these opportunities on national TV. Because in the past, we would have seen them maybe after the season they just had in 5 wins, have like one nationally televised game the entire season after that.
Yeah, truly coming into it, talking about potential matchups and primetime slots like you just talked about. In a lead-up episode of Locked On Commanders, I said I think the Commanders probably get 3 primetime games. And even part of me actually thought that was a little bit rich. But then obviously you have the 4th game with the exclusive access to the NFL audience in London. So that gives you 4 to 5 exclusive access and or half shared access with those 425 games, things like that. So I really looked at like 3 to 5 games where the Commanders would be kind of on the marquee, right? But it turns out they're on there for 8. And it's not as many as it was last year, certainly. But it's still a lot when you consider teams like the Raiders, who had the number 1 overall pick this year, Fernando Mendoza. Now I think a lot of people are kind of assuming Kirk Cousins is going to start maybe even a little bit longer than usually first-round quarterbacks sit, even number 1 overall quarterbacks sit. Kirk Cousins might start a little bit longer there. You got Cam Ward, who's, Heisman winner or Heisman contender, at least really good quarterback. Again, top draft pick himself. And the Tennessee Titans, I think they look a little bit better on paper. They've got a kind of a cool coaching staff that people would like to talk about, things like that. But, you have 5 overall NFL teams. The Jets, you could see, like, nobody's really going to cry about the Jets not being on primetime. But the flip side of that argument, even though, Anthony, I agree with you, like, the days of like, well, we hate this team, we love this team, really don't matter. Really, if there's any bias here, Anthony, and you know this being where you're from and where you're at, like, if there's any bias, it's actually the fan base that biases the NFL as far as who's going to get what games and when, which is why the Dallas Cowboys, even year after year after year after year, falling short of expectations, still get those season opening games and first primetime game of this network and do all this kind of stuff because, look, like it or love it or hate it, man, the Cowboys fans, like, no matter what their team is doing, they're going to show up. They're going to show up on all the streaming services. They're going to show up on Sunday night, Monday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. Don't matter what night it is. Like, they will go to the bathroom for a 3-hour bathroom break in the middle of their shift if it means they can watch a Cowboys game. So, we can say whatever it is, but if there's anything biasing the NFL schedule makers, it's actually the fan base. It's not the team. So truthfully, if you're a Commanders fan, you're like, well, they hate our team. First of all, no, they don't. And they don't hate you either. But I'm saying it'd be more indicative of what they think of you versus the Cowboys or versus the Commanders. And at the same time, Anthony, like, part of the reason they have as many games as they do have in prime time and exclusive share of the audience, also because we saw what happened with Commanders fans. One season of successful football, not even a championship, but one season of successful football, I got to see with my own eyes. Like, that fan base turned up, turned on, and turned out in a really big way.
Man, y'all were everywhere. I couldn't go. I'm getting tapped on the shoulder down here. I seen more burgundy and gold clothes come out down in Dallas. I was like, man. So I had to run over there. What you doing, man? I said, HTTR. They said, yeah, man, hell yeah. So, it's good to connect with folks in that regard down here, especially with folks being a little biased, like you say. The best thing about these primetime games or semi-primetime is that you get to watch the other football games in peace. You know what I mean? You don't have to feel like you're missing anything else. So I enjoy that. I think this is a solid mix-up. For real, like the 12 o'clock games, it'd be 8 games on. You can't watch all of them. You sit there and watch your Commanders, but you don't get to catch up on anything else. So you get to see what's going on along the rest of the league. I'm not really complaining about the number of primetime games or the lack thereof. I think this is a good mix. You know what I mean? I think it's kind of a healthy, smantering at times and nothing really to worry about. But whoever's complaining about primetime games, man, I don't know. Don't worry about it. Your team just got to get better. That's all I can tell you, Nick. You just got to get better. Put it on the field. Hey, I
mean, there's some teams that don't have any, and there's a reason for that, So it's like,
ain't nobody,
and that's the difference with the NFL.
Like they used to be Thursday night games used to be so garbage, because that's the reason I stopped doing fantasy football, because of Thursday night. Because you'd be like, dang, I got this person who's playing on Thursday, and this, it's going to be a trash game. It's going to be 10-9 for whatever reason. It's all field goals. Like, how'd they get 10 points on field goals? I don't know. Some wonky rule happened. But here we go. So, yeah, that's what I think about it. If you want to be good, you got to improve your play. Point blank, period. You don't get primetime games just because it's the NFL. Nope. You get to play on Saturdays sometime. You might get to play with the JV team. You play on a whole other day, untelevised. You can stream it only.
I mean, listen, the NFL, it's different because the NFL is going to try to market all of their teams to a capacity. But I'm with you, like the Thursday. Actually, I need to go back to this real quick. You stopped playing fantasy football just because the Thursday night games pissed you off? That's essentially what you're saying here?
I'd miss a player. Like, I'd miss a player, and I'd be like, oh, dang, I didn't know that my quarterback, I didn't realize he was playing on Thursday. Like, that Monday night annoying. To Thursday happens quick.
I mean, I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
Look, I haven't stopped playing, but and I know it's like first world problems, right? Like, what was you? But so I actually just have this conversation, and I only do one league. I do one league. It's a money league. It's a high money league. So I just focus on that. And there was an option this year from our commissioner to turn on, I can't remember what they called it, but basically what it is like if your roster is set, if your lineup is set, and it turns out that a player is inactive, then basically what it does is it replaces that player for you with the highest projected replacement, point total replacement possible on your roster. And I voted yes. So the vote was like, hey, it's majority rules. It's like, do we do this or do we not do this? I voted yes. I'm like, yeah, let's go ahead and do this. Someone commented in the league and was like, that just sounds like a lazy GM to me. Set your own roster and pay attention in the news. And it might have caught me on a bad day. So I was like, you know what, man? I was like, why are you out here talking out the side of your head? I was like, I'm down there on the field, on the air, all the way up until the time inactives come out. And then from the time inactives come out to the time the game I'm covering kicks off, I got to make my way from the field, through the concourse, through the stands, up to the press box, get set up in the press box, and make sure that my workstation is set up for me to do my job and work. I was like, but yeah, lazy. You're right. And fortunately, he knows me enough to know, like, man, David's just in a bad mood today. So he just laughed at it. And I saw it a couple days later. I just laughed. I was like, yeah. But like, it's kind of like I said, it's a first world problem. Yeah. But it's a little bit of a situation, man. Like some of the stuff it's more of an annoyance than anything else. But I'll be all right.
Yeah, I want to jump in. I was doing some super sleuthing. We're talking about the schedule getting easier. Like the Commanders aren't going to be, in viable positions at the end of the year. I'm looking at who some of the Cowboys have Seattle on Monday night on December 7th. Meanwhile, the Commanders have Tennessee. I'd much rather be playing Tennessee at that point. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Philly has Arizona. New York plays host to the 49ers at that point in time. Then you're looking down. The Texans come to town for the Commanders. And then where we got? The Giants have to go out to Seattle. Are you kidding me? You talk about a team not having a dog in the fight. Like, hey, your season's getting tougher as it goes along. At least we have a little bit of a reprieve, if you will. Like, where this such small font. There we go. Getting old. I need my glasses.
I was going to say, do you need some readers real quick?
Seriously, it's feeling that way. But nonetheless, like you look at some of these other opponents. We're playing Atlanta this week, December 20th. And then meanwhile, Dallas has to go to L.A. to play the Rams. That is not going to be easy. Philly has to play host on a Saturday to the Seahawks. That's not going to be easy. The matchup of the week is Cleveland going to New York, right? Like, what's going to happen in that matchup? So the way I look at it is maybe you're getting a little bit of easier matchups to finish it out. I ain't saying nobody did us a favor, but the way it's played out, if you take care of your business early, you have a couple of opponents that you should be better than, you should beat. Meanwhile, your division opponents are going up against some of the tougher opponents that you've already went against, the teams that you've already played once and they don't know anything about you. They don't have tape on you. So take advantage of those opportunities and see if you can get out ahead of folks.
All right. The games that are non-division matchups that we're looking forward to the most. That's next. It's Commander Squad. And the NBA playoffs are here and every position matters. And if you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer that can get you started. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. And that's right. You turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. It's the beautiful thing about FanDuel during the playoffs, too, is you get everything you need right in one place. You can check stats. You can check trends, matchups. You're not jumping around to different places. You make your picks, and that's when the whole experience kind of feels a little bit more informed. You're not guessing, which is what's really, really helpful. You can look for player props or just kind of following your stars, adding another level of excitement to every single game. It's really easy to move through the app, too, like really, really easy. It makes playoff basketball even more engaging from start to finish. Just head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. All right, we got Anthony Armstrong, David Harrison, and Nick Ashew. I'll bring the schedule back up. We finally settled that. A little behind-the-scenes maneuvering, if you will. Here's the game that stands out to me beyond division games, guys. Let's take all of those division matchups out of this. I pray. Well, one, we obviously play. Nobody ever roots for injuries or bad health for any player or anything like that. Obviously, Commanders first, want everybody to be healthy. That Week 11 matchup, Monday Night Football, Bengals, Commanders. I cannot wait for that game, given what we saw the last time that these two teams played a couple of years ago on Monday night. Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, the throw, the touchdown, the excitement. I don't think there was a single punt in that game, if I remember correctly, and it was just offense. And listen, I mean, we know what the Bengals can certainly be as a team offensively when they're healthy. Defense is a whole other question, and it's been that way for a while. But if Joe Burrow is healthy and Jaden Daniels is healthy, I mean, that's going to be one of the more exciting matchups in prime time that we're going to have this entire season in the NFL.
No, it is. It's going to be a great game, and it's going to be an opportunity for the Washington Commanders to enter that last stretch of that schedule, like you were pointing out, Anthony, on a good run. I mean, you got not just the December run, December 6th and all that kind of stuff, but you have really from that mid-November, the Giants, again, division matchups are always a tricky thing. But you got to try to come away with that win against the New York Giants on Thursday Night Football. Then you got, Monday Night Football against Cincinnati. Look, we did this before. Cincinnati, what does this say? Next season, what does it say? Bring that back up.
Oh, I'll bring it back up. This is
definitely we're talking about 2027. We're talking about 2026. Yeah. Like next season,
This is definitely a Giants fan jumping in our chat. Yeah.
Screenshot that, now, man. I'm gonna take
12-5 Giants. Come on now, Ace Boogie.
What did you say?
12-5 Giants. So everybody in the NFC getting hurt. NFC East is just getting hurt all over. That's what that is. That's just injuries across the board. I think that's what happens.
That good, Ace Boogie. He must be delusional, man.
Man, where did I lost
cheese,
my thought process because of that. But we've been down this road before, which I think is interesting because the Washington Commanders. Right, they faced the Cincinnati Bengals going into Arizona the week or 2 years ago, 2024. Man, let me get back on my thought process. 2024, the Washington Commanders visited the Cincinnati Bengals from Monday Night Football. Now this year it's in Northwest Stadium, granted, right? But Cincinnati Bengals Monday Night Football. Very next week they went to Arizona, and if you remember, that's when Dan Quinn opted to fly straight from Cincinnati to Phoenix. And we spent the week in Arizona getting ready for that Arizona Cardinals game. Do y'all remember who the opponent was before that Bengals game? I'll just give you the answer. It was the New York Giants. So this is literally cut right from 2024. New York Giants, then the Cincinnati Bengals, then the Arizona Cardinals, and then that stretch, Anthony, that you pointed out in December, Tennessee, Houston, Atlanta, while, the Cowboys, the Eagles, whoever are facing arguably tougher schedules. This is a valuable opportunity. And I think by the time you get to this November 12th game against the New York Giants, so I'm also honing in, Nick, on the Bengals game, but I'm adding the Cardinals game, and then I'm cheating a little bit with the Giants game. Try to follow my Asian math. It's going to work, I promise you. It's like spades math, but Asian. By the time you get to November 12th, right, you're going to have all those lessons. You're going to have all those lessons learned in those first key games. You're going to have the bye week to kind of not necessarily reset, but kind of reaccumulate your knowledge and where you want to go forward with your David Blau and Durante Jones. You get a second run at the Eagles to proof the adjustments that you make to see how they really work out. A big matchup against the Rams. And then hopefully, like I said, by the time you hit that week 12 or week 10 matchup, on November 12th against the New York Giants, you're ready to run into it. So that's my way of looping in an NFC East opponent in my non-divisional matchup.
That's what we was talking about. Non-divisional foe. We didn't jumped in the comments.
That was like a lasagna, like a non-divisional lasagna. Like the non-divisional matchup is in there. You just got to get through the layers of the conversation.
Yeah, I would tell you, mine starts early. Mine starts early. It's that one against the Super Bowl champions, and it's simply because I want to see what you're made of. I expect you to show up against Philly. I expect you to show up against Dallas. But now you've got Sam Darnold, you've got that whole team coming in. We remember what happened last year in that matchup, and they were just so aggressive. There's something that you want to make sure you show up for that one, right? You want to make sure that you put some good stuff on tape, and that would be a huge, huge win to get. And I saw in the comments you talking about continuity. I forget what player or what comment came by. Last season had so many injuries, and there was so much adversity that, frankly, I feel like that is something that will spill over into this year. Being able to be together through those moments, that makes your team stronger. It's something that you're not going to be able to, you can't like check a box. You can't measure it. You can't see it on film, but it's something in that locker room that's going to help them show up and get these big wins. And I think if that week 3 matchup, if you can find a way to get a W over them, going 2-1 before you go across the pond, that can really set yourself up for a really strong start and a confident season. And you mentioned after that bye week, David, the big thing for me is the self-scouting. All right, self-scouting. How are you going to adjust yourself? I've said it earlier. First 6 weeks, don't nobody know what you're doing. They're going to have San Francisco is going to have a little bit of an idea, but nobody really knows David Blau's tendencies. They don't know what they're going to do, how they're going to unveil some things. Slowly but surely that will happen. But I'm telling you that week 7 bye, how can you adjust? How are you going to come up with a counterpunch? Because Vic Fangio is going to be ready week 8. All right. He's going to be ready week 8. They're going to have something for whatever you did in week 2 or week 1. I'm sorry. And I want him to come out and get that W to start the season on the road. Let's have Taylor Heineke. Shout out to him with the retirement. He can be an honorary captain. Put him on the plane. Let's bring him out there to Philly. Start this thing out with some fire because they're going to come back fighting and swinging after that bye week. So you got to be able to self-scout.
Just don't put the cameras on Taylor on the plane and get that 6-pack on the video and get everybody in trouble again like you did last time.
Oh man, yeah, guys, come on, a little discretion, please. A little discretion. We gotta think about.
Yeah, maybe you don't want to go that route. Just at least, don't make it so it's that obvious. Yeah. I'm gonna kill technology today. I'm just gonna leave you guys at that. There are things, you have those days where it's like you count on technology and then it just doesn't want to do what it's supposed to do, and you just don't want to talk about it, but you really want to talk about it. We talk about there's a lot going on for me right now. I'm just gonna throw a laptop out the window. That being said, in technology, are we concerned at all that the Commanders are gonna be playing near a substation at all when they're at San Francisco? Anybody? No.
No.
Do you see the chart? So the Chargers definitely. So I know there's a million of these different schedule release videos, and I can't watch them all. I've seen a lot of like the clips. The Chargers did a whole Halo schedule release basically, but they threw a whole 49ers substation reference in there. There also was a little bit of a Vrabel New York Post, Diane Rossini thing. They had a little, it was a little bit, it's like, it was subtle. It was subtle when they did it. But there are certain things that you knew were going to happen in these schedule release videos, and everybody's going to have a different style. There's different social teams and all that, but definitely did see it from the Chargers. They made a big deal out of it. Like, it was like really obvious what they were doing. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I do think it was funny because like that's something that just works with social, right? Like you got to have something in there as a joke because there's a level of snark that happens in a lot of these schedule release videos from teams, and I thought that was probably one of my favorite ones.
I just need to add, there to be like a social team flag football game or something that goes down because there's a whole lot of talking that happens off the field that we got to handle. You know what I mean? Like, hey man, I saw that tweet that you put out there and your social team said, calling out all these Tylers. Well, I'm going to get after, you know what I'm saying? Like, help me out now. Let's put the social
even
team
a Madden
out
tournament.
There.
Do a Madden tournament.
I've always wanted it to be a media combine. I'm talking 40 short shuttles. We'll have training staff.
You just want to laugh at all the non-athletic people trying to be athletic.
I'm giggle a little bit, man. I'm giggle a little bit. I'm gonna enjoy it, but we'll have somebody out there to take care of those pulled muscles that are going to happen for sure. We'll take care of you.
I hope so. I think I just threw my back out thinking about doing a media combine.
See, you can't fake the injury.
I might be one of the ones that do better at it than some of my coworkers.
See what I'm saying? Put that out there. Put that challenge out there. Challenge Nick to a 40-yard dash. Today's field day for my kids, and they're talking about the 40. And he's like, Dad, I slipped last time. So in my mind, I'm like, yo, when you get down, I'm like, are you standing up or are you down in a track? And he's like, I stood up. So see, that's the issue. You got to get your foot over your, put your weight on there and get in a good stance. He wasn't really listening to me, but he did say, he said, I'm going to get into the slower group in the first rounds so that I can move on. I said, you know what? I ain't mad at that. I get what you're saying. So shout out to my kid over here doing the field day today.
You know, it's funny though, those field days. So, I mean, they've been done before and but it's more with fans. So it was actually like, it's probably about 12 years ago. So I'd just kind of gotten into the business and it was the ESPN 980 field day or something. I think we did. You might've been with the team then, Anthony. Wait, were you in there? Were you there 2014? I can't remember the years now or when it was
at that point.
Yeah. Cause I'm trying to think of what year it was too. Anyway, none of those details matter. All I remember is it was in the bubble. And I remember we had like fans come out, people got tickets and like we're kicking field goals and running 40s and all that stuff. And people were getting hurt, man. Like, you got to train for that stuff. It's no joke. So you're asking for like social teams to go up and play football with each other. There's going to be some pulled hamstrings, end up like Kevin Hart blowing out your hip flexors and everything, man.
And then I'm gonna report on it too. I mean, like, he's just not in shape. We thought that he came into camp healthy, but they didn't address it the way that, you know what I'm saying? So we're gonna turn them tables turn, you know what I mean?
So it's funny because USAA does like a training camp day. I think it's like military day. They bring some military members out, they bring them in the bubble in Ashburn, and they put together some football drills for them, and they let them go through. And then they invite the media members, go out there, get some B-roll of it and do like a nice, feel-good community story about the outreach and all that kind of stuff. And I'm telling you, every single time they look at us like, hey, if you guys want to get in line and take some reps, go ahead. Not a single person ever takes them up on it. And that's not trash talk. I'm there too. I've never gotten in line and say, yeah, let me line up and run this drill myself too. So yeah, no, you're right.
It could be wisdom. Could be wisdom at that point.
It's a little bit.
Could you imagine?
You know what? One of them once told me the last thing I need to do is tear my ACL in some preseason training camp foolishness, and then I got to navigate the next 18 weeks of the NFL season with a torn ACL, going through airports and doing all this other stuff. Like, you know what? I'm gonna use that excuse too. I like that. The worst of it is when you go in the locker room and everybody looking at you like, "What the hell happened to you?" You're like, "Man, I was
trying to be like you, man.
Route.
Look what happened."
You know what I mean? I was explaining how versatile Antonio Williams is in his route running. I tried to emulate that, and it didn't work. Right? I cut this way, and my knee went that way. So
I tried to cut, and the turf cut back. That's what
I'll leave it to him. So you can blame it on MetLife Stadium. At least you could try to put it on them.
That's true. Blaming the field always works. That's the first time I've really heard a lot of anti-media vitriol from you, Anthony.
No.
You guys go through it now.
I love them. I love my media
there, though. I don't know.
But I think that's in every industry, though. I mean, I remember being in the Army where we would be going out there doing drills or ranges or whatever, and you'd have this like colonel or his major or someone who always walks around like their stuff don't stink, and it's like, man, your uniform's always clean. It's always clean for a reason. It's like, get down here in this fighting position. Let me see you do something. Get down here with these sandbags. Let me see you do something. That's just kind of, I mean, I'm sure in the radio station, I've never worked in a radio station, and this is not a direct correlation to anybody just because I know Nick is on the radio. This is not anything Nick has ever told me before, but like, there's probably a station manager out there somewhere, even like a producer somewhere who like always runs their mouth. It's like, you know what? Get your butt behind this microphone for 4 hours in the off season, and let's see you do this thing. You're talking all this trash. Let's see you do this thing and hold this thing down. So I think that's every industry. I think every industry. I mean, I'm sure players probably got coaches too. It's like you get out here and hit this sled. You keep talking to me about using my leverage on this sled. You get out here and use this sled. You can't even tie your own damn shoes. Like,
that's when
there's
that's when you're trying to tell them, you're like, Coach, this is not working out like you saying. It does. And I'm like, bro, you want to try?
Show me.
I'm like, this sucker's fun. They'd be like, hey, you gotta keep outside leverage on Brandon Banks. I'm like, I thought I was, because I blinked and then he was over there. So you know what I mean? What do you want me to do? Well, keep outside leverage. I'm on the sideline. I don't know.
That's when you start taking the pads off, and then you go, here, show me real quick.
Man,
put this thing on. Go be 13. Show me how it's done.
You figure it out. They say the number one rule of coaching is you don't do the drill. You don't ever do the drill. Don't do it. Just leave it up to the players. But hey, I don't know. It's all been fun.
It's the safer way to go. Too, the 49ers week 6 at San Francisco. I mean, look, if you got Brandon Ayuk on the team, it's going to be a nice revenge game there, guys. I mean, I'm just saying, we haven't talked about Brandon Ayuk once yet, but listen, I'm seeing a lot in the comments here. George, bring this up. Here's the only thing I'm going to say. Guys, I have a theory, and I need to workshop this with you because it came up on the air yesterday for me, and I need some help to see if I'm a crazy person or not. There's a lot of conversation about, Stephon Diggs. I'm seeing that in the comments here now too, right? Diggs, Brandon Ayuk. Hear me out for a second. The Commanders have $43 million in cap space left, okay? They got a lot of cap space. So what if Stephon Diggs and they bring back Deebo Samuel, because nobody else seems to want him right now, and you don't even have to worry about whether Brandon Ayuk can still play football or not. And it could be, even if it's 1 year for both of them and it's $30 million total, they're still got $13 million left over. It's 1 year. You've added one, what Deebo can do in this offense if he's not the number one receiver. Stephon Diggs adds an extra layer, but may not be the same Stephon Diggs. Lower pressure on these guys. The expectations aren't as high. You got a lot more depth, a lot more talent in that wide receiver group. they're both available, and this team's got a lot of cap space, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of teams knocking on Stephon Diggs's door right now or knocking on, Deebo Samuel's door. I kind of feel like that would be a better route, or I'm a crazy person, which is totally fine. I feel like that's maybe a better route than this, let's just maybe see what happens with Brandon Ayuk and go through all this process once we get to training camp, maybe, while the 49ers are holding him hostage. Just popped in my head, and I kind of feel like maybe that's the direction to go. Just saying.
Here's what I'm going to say about that idea. What I'm going to say about that idea is this. If you're on YouTube right now or later on listening to this episode, if you're not on YouTube listening to this episode, there is an episode of Locked On Commanders that literally just published 2 or 3 days ago where I literally dove into this exact topic for about 10 minutes. So
I completely missed that episode out. Well, I did not mean to steal that from you then.
No,
I did not mean to steal that from you.
Nobody listened to every episode. That's perfectly fine. I hardly listen to every episode, and I'm the one that records the damn thing. So go check that episode out because Anthony, I dropped about 10 minutes of my thoughts on this very topic. So I'm going to leave it to you.
Oh,
man. That's good.
I was hoping you were going to go. For me, yeah, I was like, share it again. I didn't see it either. No,
here's the. I'll give you the bottom line up front. Bottom line up front is this: is both of them. So when you talk about the David Blau goal of getting Terry McLaurin 10 targets per game, both of these wide receivers, if they're at their physical ability that we last saw them play football at, are capable of helping David Blau get Terry McLaurin 10 targets per game. However, it's not really an either or in the sense of one or the other because they're two very different receivers at this stage in their careers. Stephon Diggs is no longer that outside perimeter vertical threat that he used to be in his prime. He's a different kind of receiver. So the concept of potentially bringing both of these guys onto the roster actually makes a lot of sense if you want to really diversify the group. The question would then be who else is going to stay along with them? Because for me, if it's Terry, Brandon, Stephon, Antonio ain't going nowhere because he just got drafted. That's 4 of your spots already taken. Then you got Luke, you got Jalen, you got Diami, you got Van, you got Traylon, you got a lot of dudes that people like. Now, I'm all about the competition, but I also know that come roster cutdown day, Anthony, there's going to be a lot of boo-boo feelings out there in the Commanders fan base, and I'm going to get a lot of boo-boo feelings when I talk about the cutdowns. I'm like, yeah, I can see why X player got cut from this roster instead of this player, and then it's going to be that I just hate this guy because, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's kind of good. Thank you for that recap because the timing is going to be what's right for them, right? And right now you're in the evaluation phase, right? This is OTAs. It's a new system. They're just trying to see what these guys can do, right? Can they run the routes? Can they who has the biggest route tree capabilities, right? They're going to be able to notice what they need as they get closer into training camp. Second part is these guys are of the age where they don't need OTAs, right? They don't really, they're in shape. They know how to run routes. They know how to get open. You'll go up there and say, run a slant. They're like, all right, cool. And that's simple. They'll figure out what the offense is, obviously scheme wise, but they don't need to have the day-to-day be around the team type of thing. I think they deserve that time to do as they want to do for their all season. But the decision is really going to come down to what do these other receivers do? All the names that you listed that are going to have to be cut, if they're not performing, that's when you're going to have to call a Stephon Diggs. That's when you're going to call a Deebo Samuel because you're not getting that aspect of your game. You're not seeing another receiver open up on the outside. And I was speaking yesterday with Bucky Brooks. We were talking about Antonio Williams. He's got enough speed to check the box to line up outside. He can get deep down the field with that 4.3 speed, so he could end up being that deep route. But he also has the ability to operate in the slot and do some things behind the line of scrimmage. So it can make some room for a Deebo to still fit into that void because now you can't say, well, Antonio's going to run the quick screen. Deebo's over here too. If you were to bring in a Stephon Diggs, where does he fit in? And I think the biggest key is just the versatility, right? Who can really develop their bag? Who's going to show that they can line up in multiple positions? Because this formation, whatever this offense is, you're going to have to be able to do more than just one thing. And it's going to be lining up outside, inside Nick. You're going to be able to just showcase what you could do as a route runner, and David Blau is going to get the ball in your hands.
All right, coming up, a look at some of the other games outside of the Commanders' schedule and what would we consider a good, reasonable start for this Commanders team, knowing that those first 6 weeks, and you could even make the first 9 games are going to be, or first 8 games are going to be massively tough for this team. So we'll look at some of that coming up next here on Commander Squad. If you've ever opened your bank account and thought, where'd all the money go? You're not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast, and that's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. It tracks your subscriptions in one spot. It can help you cancel the ones that you don't need with just a few taps, which is great, and it's easy, and it automatically categorizes your spending so you can actually see where your money's going. You can set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of upcoming bills. Just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a cleaner picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join rocketmoney.com/locked on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. All right, Anthony Armstrong, David Harrison, and Nick Ashew here. I was looking at least, I know we kind of already had this out, but, the international schedule for the NFL just continues to get bigger and bigger. And, they're going to add more and more games. Obviously, the Commanders are a part of that with the London games, and that's really where it started. But, as this goes on, you can only imagine what the NFL international schedule is going to look like. I feel like there's like a point where the NFL should just have an entire international week where like all the games are played around the world in different time zones, like in 1 week. It's just, this is smart for the NFL to do this. And, listen, it helps the Commanders grow their brand playing over in London. It's not the first time they've obviously been there, so that helps. And certain teams have marketing rights in certain countries and regions, which is, good for those individual countries. But, the NFL, look, we know it's trying to take over the world. We know what the NFL is trying to do, and it's working. And, if you're the league as a whole, it's not just about growing the NFL worldwide, but it's growing the sport of American football, because there are going to be kids now growing up that become a Commanders fan or a Jags fan at this point with how often they've watched what used to be a terrible team playing over there in London, or, you got Madrid, you got all these different places where these teams are playing, and you're just starting to see now what the plan is. To me, this makes way more sense if you're talking financial gain for the league than adding an 18th game. You know how much I hate that. I think it's just ridiculous. We're going to add another regular season game. I know it's inevitable, but this to me just shows like the NFL is really leaning into all of these international games, but it does benefit these teams. Although, as people like Kyle Shanahan have pointed out, doesn't really actually help the coaches or the players, and the travel's a pain in the ass, which, David, I understand, because, well, the time zones and all the toilet paper you got to bring. It's a lot of toilet paper that you got to bring. I've seen the numbers. It's a lot of toilet paper they got to travel with.
No, it is. It is. There's definitely good sides to it. There's downsides to it. I understand why the NFL does it. I think really they kind of looked at what an international presence has done for baseball and what it did for the NBA, although I kind of think the NBA kind of stumbled into it. Like, I don't think Dirk Nowitzki was like the first one, but, Dirk and Yao, and it's like, oh, hey, this international business is actually pretty cool. Let's go ahead and leverage that a little bit. So that's where the NBA kind of lucked into it, which is good because they can't figure anything out on their own. So they got to luck into something. But, the NFL is interesting because, that 18th game is coming as some way, shape, or form. I saw one fan who kind of posed an idea, Anthony, of week 9, half the league is international, and then that half of the league gets a week 10 bye, and then week 10, the teams that are international, like the other half is international, and they had a week 9 bye or something crazy like that. I don't know if that would really work. I think the NFL likes having these international games kind of be the only game on the market, because now every football fan has to watch it. And it's almost like those car commercials where like every truck is the number one truck in this measurement. Every car is the number one car in this measurement. Yeah. It's like the Madrid game is the most watched game in week whatever. It's like, yeah, bro, like this is the only game to watch. Like everybody had to watch it. Like nobody, if you gave people an option outside, and I love Marcus, but if you gave people an option outside of Marcus Mariota and whoever the Dolphins quarterback was, it wouldn't have been the most watched game of that day. But because you didn't have an option, people want to wake up and watch football. So that's kind of why the NFL does it that way, I think.
Yeah, if you were to do the half and half, I feel like then that's when you'd have to have that extra week and that extra bye week. You'd have to find another way to kind of account for it. There's plenty of games to go around. I tell you that much. They could put a social media team game going on one of those weeks and let one of those guys battle it out midway through the season. Hell, as many players have podcasts, that would be a great thing to report on. Let them do it over there. But international games are cool, man. I do like this the way that you're able to reach around the world and impact other communities. And and kind of spilling over there, especially with the internet. Hell, you realize you got fans all over the place. So there's a little young London bloke over there who's going to fall in love with Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels. Is that a good UK accent? Thank you very much.
That was actually not bad. It was the right proper one you had there. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Right proper.
I'm not going to get in on this, but I think you guys are doing a good job.
Thank you very much. I was practicing reading Dr. Seuss books to the kids. I was like ABC and so on and so forth. But nonetheless, you get to go over there, you get to impact it and spread your, your brand as a team, your brand as a player, and really showcase people what this football game is about. And I'm all with it. So sign me up for more international games. That's it.
And going back to what you said too, David, like when you look at the way the NBA is expanded globally, I mean, basketball is already a bigger sport around the world to begin with. And you go back to like the 92 Dream Team really expanded the game significantly in the Olympics because you had obviously the biggest stars and Michael Jordan and all these guys playing on that team. So it did make it more popular and the NBA started to lean on it there. But, if you're the NFL, you're in a spot where you have to kind of do it yourself. The sport does not exist around the world. Do you guys think at some point they'll bring NFL Europe back? Like, I just feel like there needs to be... Right. You don't think there'll be anything like this and it just stays this way. I just kind of feel like, well, my bigger thing obviously is some sort of minor league would be amazing for the league. I would love to see some other way to develop players, but I don't know if that becomes something where they try the NFL Europe again down the road too.
I would love a developmental league. The thing about NFL Europe, and this is all kind of conjecture from my part because I don't really know for sure, obviously, but a little bit of it I think has to come down to like pay, right? Because like living in Europe, you know what I mean, for part of the year, because obviously if you're playing in NFL Europe and you're playing developmental league, your intention is to eventually, I don't know what's happening. Somebody's cutting grass.
I don't know what
office.
That is.
That was Anthony. Hey, I started on my AirPods thinking I'm muting myself when I'm not actually muting myself, so I can't even.
It's been a day. It's just been one of those days. The gremlins and the machines.
It's a good thing I wasn't talking trash because sometimes y'all be talking. I'm like this. Shut up right now. I'm just kidding.
Nick is such.
I mean, so like, because like let's say Germany, right? So Germany is actually a country I do know about. So they have a socialist tax system there. It's 30% right off the top. Everything you make, you just lose 30% right off the top. But nobody files taxes there. So like if you're an American player, what are you getting paid? And then you're losing 30% on top of it. You probably got an agent or something like that. So you got to pay them a little bit. And that's the thing about money in the NFL is people talk about like, oh, like this contract's worth up to $100 million. Okay, yeah, but what goes into that man's pocket is not $100 million. You know what I mean? And so that's just kind of part of it is like you got to live in a foreign country for part of the year, in your home country for part of the year. One of them you got to file taxes, the other, and that's not even before you get to the playtime, right? I think the UFL, honestly, if there's going to be a developmental league in the NFL, it's the UFL. I think the UFL is the easiest road to it. I've actually done the math before. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head anymore, but if you look at the UFL season, a starter in the UFL plays X amount of snaps on average, right? You'd have to average it out, obviously, because you can't be specific. And whatever that snap count is, I think it averaged out to about 65% of what an NFL starter averages during a regular season. So a UFL starter plays about 65% of as many snaps as an NFL starter does if they play the full season. So for me, what I would probably look at doing from an amateur standpoint is if you're an NFL team, if you're the Washington Commanders, any player you have that has played 35% of your snaps or less can be designated to the UFL. So they played less than 30, they play 35% of snaps or less. So if they go to UFL and they're a starter and they play all those snaps and they play 35% of the snaps for you, then in theory, in that calendar year, they'll have played an average amount of NFL starting snaps, if that makes sense. So ideally, what you're trying to do, nothing's going to be perfect, but what you're trying to do is limit the amount of exposure and all that stuff for body degradation and injury and all that kind of stuff to a player for one, right? So you get them the development, you get them the experience, right? All those types of things. Two, I think for security standpoint, any player that gets designated to the UFL would then be guaranteed a 90-man roster spot, and that 90-man roster contract, like that contract would be guaranteed even against injury. So if you go to the UFL and you get injured in the UFL and it costs you, that next year's training camp or whatever, you may not be on the 90-man roster because you're put on whatever list you got to be put on, but your money is guaranteed. It's not great. Obviously ballers want a ball, but at least you can feed yourself, you can feed your family if you need to, because you are taking this risk of playing spring ball when everybody else is kind of working out, not relaxing, but working out, recovering, things like that. So I think there's got to be a little bit of a trade-off. Anthony, I mean, you could tell me, like, as a player, if you were a player in that 35% snap share or less category, would that be enough for you to do that? Or would you, because you're still practicing all year long. Yeah. It's not like you're just sitting on your hands all year and then UFL comes up, it's like, oh, now I got to wake up and actually go out there and be physical. You're being physical all year long. Yeah. So that's just, again, layman's terms. That's the way I kind of look at it.
Yeah, the key for me is that whenever I first came back I had an injury in college. I went undrafted, and I literally called the same scout back who's still with the Falcons now. And I said, hey, I'm healthy. Bring me down for camp. And they're like, well, actually, you need tape. That's what everybody's missing, is that you don't have game tape. The people that you're competing against, they're in college, and they're playing tape, and they're watching to look at the highlights. All you have is OTAs. You only have the few opportunities that coaches give to you. So it makes sense. If you really want to develop your players, you have to be able to put them in some sort of league, and they have to be protected. So yeah, if you're telling me, like if you send me over there to Europe and I will come back and I know I have at least a 90-day position, I can come back and show that I've been working. I've been playing football. Yeah, it's a long year of football, a lot of banging, but hey, ultimately you want to get on the field at the end when the regular season starts, and that's it right there. But yeah, so yes, I'm down for it. I think that's the way that you can truly help develop players rather than it just ending and then they don't really have a place to go.
Yeah, and I think that's a smart
UFL. Imagine Ja'Cory Brooks.
Yeah,
Ja'Cory Brooks is a guy that a lot of Commanders fans were interested in last year, or Carlin Viggers, a cornerback, you know what I mean, who had a pretty solid camp. Like, imagine he's out there balling for the DC Defenders right now. Like, imagine they're out there doing that right now for the DC Defenders, and that they also have a 90-man spot when they come back, so they can get into the OTAs, into the mini camps and training camp and all that kind of stuff. I think it would help the UFL as well as it would help the NFL develop some of these players.
And I feel like there's a path to that, right? Where, because if I remember correctly, the UFL does have like a showcase period, right? With the NFL, they still have that, don't they?
Something like that. Yeah, I don't know all the dimensions of it, but yeah, there's something.
Right.
There is something.
So there's definitely something there. It's just, there's not enough, especially for quarterbacks too. For quarterbacks to get more reps at a different level as opposed to just practice squad. I feel like it would give them more of an opportunity to be able to just kind of, handle that way and help them build up. All right, we got a couple minutes here. I know Anthony had to jump off. When you look at I'm not going to play, I told you, I'm not going to play the win-loss game. I'm not going to do it. The Commanders' win total is 7.5, though, for anybody that is interested. I hate going down the schedule and playing that, but what I do look at is the start of the season and the matchups like we mentioned, and even just that stretch before the bye. I feel like if you can finish those first 6 games at 3-3, take at least one of the division games, really, because, 2 of them are on the road, so you might split Philadelphia, Dallas, and maybe that's an opportunity there. Coming out of that 3-3, plus there's the travel to London there, I think that's a really strong start for this Commanders team. Because, like, David, the big thing you've got a rookie offensive and defensive coordinator, a lot of new faces on this roster, so this team getting a semblance of confidence early on, I think is really going to be important because you have so many new pieces that are there to just show, hey, proof of concept, this thing's working.
Listen, I think when you look at these teams on paper, you look at the Washington Commanders on paper last year before all the injuries came in and all that kind of stuff. I think if you look at the Commanders on paper, 2024, compared to all these opponents, can they beat the Eagles? They can. Can they beat the Cowboys, Seahawks, Colts, Giants, Niners? They can beat all these teams, can beat all these teams. I'm not saying they should beat all these teams, but they can beat every single one of these teams. You're bringing a lot of those guys back on paper, right? Jaden's coming back. Terry's healthy again. Dietrich Wise, who was doing a really good job of setting that edge on that side of the field, is coming back, right? A lot of these guys are getting healthier. The scheme, hopefully, is going to be healthier, and you're more athletic, right? Bobby Wagner's not coming back, so you have Sonny Styles out there. Now, the question really that I have, and I think the question for this entire season, is going to be leadership, right? Because at the end of the day, someone has got to get these guys pulling all in the same direction and keep them on track. We've seen too many times, not just with the Washington, but you see it time and time again with NFL teams where someone's on the sidelines like, hey, buddy in pads and a helmet, we need you to come out there and compete. Like, you would love to be in a situation, people will say you shouldn't have to tell an NFL player to pick your pants up and go compete. But people are people, man. You know what I mean? So when that time comes, because every team goes through adversity, when that time comes, if there is no Bobby, I don't think there's going to be a Zach Ertz. I love Zach. Hopefully, if I'm wrong, I'm through the roof to see Zach Ertz come back into that locker room. But I don't see a space for him with Chig and what they want to do with Ben and John Bates and all those guys. So I don't think he's coming back. So that's a lot of leadership off the table if you're the Washington Commanders. Like Frankie Louvu has been a great emotional spark plug, but an emotional spark plug is not necessarily the guy that really brings the group together. He's just the one that lights them on fire once they're already together. Jaden Daniels is going to be a huge leadership year for Jaden Daniels. And what can he do without a guy like Zach Ertz and Bobby Wagner in the locker room? So for me, a lot of it really kind of comes down to that more than anything, more than the talent on the field. Again, if injuries happen, I mean, look, it'll be a long year. We'll talk about it, and we'll do the best that we can. But if this team is healthy, they can go toe-to-toe with any of these teams in the NFL and on the schedule. So I'm not worried about their capabilities. I'm worried about the mental side of things when the going gets tough, when you're down by 10 in the beginning of the fourth quarter in Philly in week 1, and that Lincoln Financial crowd is throwing batteries and cussing out your kids and doing all this stuff. Like, do you have the mental wherewithal to band together and overcome that? Because that, I think, is what's really going to separate this team in 2026 from the teams of the past. Because I think on paper, like I said, this team is more athletic, it's faster, it's more talented, and the scheme is expected to be more customized to the talent that's on the team, which of course is just going to elevate them even more.
Yeah, without question. Health is the most important thing, because we can't suffer through another year of what happened last year, where it's just right away you go, oh, this is going to be one of those.
Especially, if we get to December and this team is decimated by injury with the Titans, Texans, Falcons, Vikings, and Jags, I don't even know what I'm going to do for my show. I don't even know how I'm going to get people. How am I going to get butts in seats to listen to me ramble on about this team? Is like, sorry, there's no Terry, there's no Jaden, there's no Sonny, but we got the Titans. I don't even know how to get people excited for that. I'm just going to have to give away jerseys. I'm just going to give away helmets. I don't even know what I'm going to do.
I can help you build an AI avatar, and it can do the work for you, and then you just won't even have to do it. It won't be all that realistic, but we'll work on that. We'll work on that. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Commanders, our YouTube channel here. If you haven't done that already, of course, check out everything David does with Locked On Commanders as well, including his podcast about Stephon Diggs and Deebo Samuel, which I'm loving more and more. It's starting to hit with me as well. Give us a follow on all the socials as the offseason continues for the Commanders. We will be here through it all on Commander Squad.